It is the Red River Farm Network Crop Tour presented by Pioneer. I'm Don Wick along with Tyler Donaldson. We're making the road in that southeastern section of North Dakota today. We're talking with Levi Taylor, Crop Innovations LLC. Levi, first of all, appreciate you hosting us today.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
We drove through a little fog to get here, but it's going to turn out to be a beautiful day. Let's talk about this growing season. How do things shape up in this world?
Yeah, so we came off of a what I would call mild winter that everyone was licking the chops and excited to be getting in the field early and probably getting some much needed acres back. And for the most part, that didn't all come to fruition, to say the least. We ended up getting a little wet getting into the spring. Got in a timely manner, and then in our specific geography, we experienced a fairly intense hailstorm that came through early June or so. That was, by all accounts, like some of the worst hail that some of our neighbors have probably seen in our area since like 1973, I think it was. So there was a lot of replant on soybeans. There was some concern on replant on corn. However, we kind of let that ride out. But significant amount of replant that our agency saw with soybeans.
We should know we're in that Ypsilanti, Montpelier type area. How did we come back as far as that replants? Everything looking good?
Yeah, everything's looking good. I mean, the unfortunate truth is that when we got all that hail, we also got a lot of rain with it. So when we went in to go and reseed a lot of these fields, we were getting less acres in than we had initially got in. And it was a gut punch. I mean, we had a lot of these soybeans that were in fairly early. And when you look at the book, early soybeans usually pan out to turn out really, really well. And so, it was doom and gloom for a little bit, but as soon as the fields dried out and let us get back to it, I think it alleviated a lot of guys' concerns just knowing we got back in the field in somewhat of a timely manner to still, hopefully get a respectable crop out of the replant. But right now it looks good. The biggest factor is going to be, just kind of how much drowned out we had out there. And what that's going to mean for our final, field averages and stuff like that.
You've got a beautiful plot that we're looking at here. Tell us a little bit about the soybean plot, what we have here.
Yeah, so primarily right here we're sitting looking at our Z series soybeans. We have a couple A series soybeans as well, but Pioneer has done a really good job of putting a lot of research R&D into developing the next generation of soybean, and so you're going to see a lot of variety numbers with a Z when you go across our plot as well as other plots across the state. And what that's representing is that new generation. So I mean they've done a lot to enhance yield as well as breed these varieties to be strong against specific disease and white mold is one of them, and field phytophthora is another thing that we fight a lot in this neck of the woods. And they've really done a good job of listening to what the reps have been saying and bringing that to fruition. So like I said, we have anything from a early as an 04, which is probably a little on the early side for maturity for our area, all the way up to a 1-4. And so when you look at how many different varieties we have here, it's just it encompasses a nice package of different early and late maturities to build your farm package around.
In this area, is there any certain varieties you're excited about going into the 25?
Yeah, so 06A38 is a variety that we have right over here to my right, 06A38E. It's been around for a couple of years now, but it's been just a really solid variety. I like to think of it as a variety that we're probably going to put a majority of our acres in, or most of our acres in, and then kind of supplement and build around it. But it's characteristics of it are like a taller bean. It canopies out nice. Probably our best bean in our lineup from a white mold standpoint, which is a big issue, as well as phytophthora. So you can understand how one would want to put a plan together based on that variety and then kind of build around it.
Any other issues we've seen with soybeans this year? Aphids, any other challenges?
Yeah, so aphids were somewhat of a concern early on. It seems like between aphids and white mold. So about 3 weeks ago, both those darn pests kind of started popping up in my mind, and trying to communicate with our growers and let them know that conditions are right for possible white mold blow up, and we've been seeing some aphids. Seems like aphids kind of took the back burner, and then we had these foggy mornings and perfect conditions for white mold, so we kind of put our focus onto that, and then all of a sudden these darn aphids came back out to play again. So lately there's been guys spraying, not too terribly much around our general area, but you go a little further north and south of Jamestown, there's been a lot more aphids that have been getting sprayed in the fields.
Let's switch over to corn. How's this corn crop looking?
Yeah, so the corn's looking good. Again, we had that hailstorm that I just told you about, so we did not have to replant any corn for that storm. However, I mean, the fields were wiped out. I mean, after the storm, we drove around and I could hardly row where the corn was. You know, it was out of the ground, but the growing point was still below the ground. And so, we walked around and did some field visits with our product agronomists and said, hey, what are we looking at here? We know we're going to have to replant soybeans. Are we going to have to do corn too? And the determination was that we felt confident that corn was going to come back. So it was unfortunate because obviously that sets it back. It knocks it out. It has to regrow to the point where it was, prior to getting hailed out. So that really has caused, I don't want to say an issue, but it's just an observation of our corn being, what you would maybe call a little bit behind from a development standpoint. And you factor that along with what I would call an abnormally cooler June. We weren't quite getting the GDUs we wanted early out of the gates. That kind of builds up, a scenario to have the crop development be a little bit behind. So am I expecting it to be something like what we saw in 2019 when the corn didn't finish and we were combining corn at 24 moisture? I'm not expecting that. But I am expecting that, corn's going to be on the wetter side, probably wetter than what we've been used to the last couple of years. And if we know that going into harvest, we can, make some arrangements or look at some things that we do with our dryer, maybe booking a little extra fuel, those sorts of things. But all in all, I think it'll be all right.
Mother Nature is large and in charge, so you have to always keep that in mind. What kind of maturity are we looking at as far as corn in your area?
Yeah, so I'd say the large area is going to probably look at anywhere from like an 86 day all the way up to maybe like a 90 day, 91 day is going to catch a large amount of the acres that go through this area. Obviously, you have a conversation and determining what fits your acres depending on if you have a dryer, if you don't have a dryer, those sorts of things. This particular variety this ear that I'm holding here is 8859. Much like our 06 A38E in soybeans, this has kind of been a variety that we've been able to build around. It's got a very strong stress emergence score, which is always a plus in North Dakota because the fields may be fit and you get them planted, but you can always get some cold weather that comes through. But this particular variety, we planted a majority of our farm to. A lot of other guys. It's just the most popular variety that we put in, and it's looking like it's coming along. It's just starting the dent process, so it's coming out of the milk stage. And typically what that means when it's starting to really dent, we're looking at 60 days or so till we get to maturity, I guess is what you would call it. So
it's got a nice long ear. It looks like we've got a lot of potential with that one.
Yeah. It's like I said, we've planted it before. We know what we're getting ourselves into with it, so it's a good variety to have on the farm. We also have a couple other varieties that like I talked about building around that portfolio. We have a new 90-day, I call it 90-0630 AM. That's looking like a promising variety, a little longer than this 8859 as far as maturity. But again, something that could probably fit for guys that can get the crop in early and have the ability to maybe dry down some grain.
Tell me a little bit about your agency, Levi.
Yeah, so Crop Innovations LLC, we're obviously a pioneer seed agency. We also sell retail chemical, name brand generic chemical. We do a little bit of custom spraying. And then also just recently we took on Precision Plant as another service that we can offer to our customers. So assisting guys with their precision planting components on their planter, helping them retrofit planters. Everyone knows the used equipment market has taken kind of a beating lately, and the price of new equipment is so expensive that a lot of guys can just take what they currently have and make some updates to it and not have to break the bank. So
you got any field days or anything coming up this fall?
Yeah, we do. September 17th is when we're having our plot tour. It's a little bit on the later end of the spectrum for plot tour season, but we're looking forward to it. We're going to have a local vendor be cooking up some ribs for lunch. And then we're going to have Dr. Lee Breeze with Central that's going to be speaking to our group as we're finishing up eating. So if you're not doing anything that day, come on by and we'll have some ribs.
Sounds fantastic. Again, thanks for hosting us. It's a great way to start the day.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah.
Levi Taylor with us, Crop Innovations LLC, again in that Ypsilanti, Montpelier area of North Dakota. That is our Red River Farm Network crop tour, our first stop of the day. We'll keep you up to date as the day progresses. This is the Red River Farm Network crop tour presented by Pioneer.